Hey friends, this is Sunday Postscript for Labor Day weekend, September the 3rd, 2023. I'm Pastor Cary. This is the Growing in the Gospel YouTube channel. And Sunday Postscript is a shorter, usually, hopefully, a shorter video where I just kind of do a post wrap on the Sunday morning service at Emmanuel and kind of review the message and visit personally in some of the ways that the message impacted me, or maybe there's something I want to correct or clarify or say differently. So I'm just back from Sunday morning service, and God gave us a wonderful morning this Labor Day weekend. So wherever this video finds you, happy Labor Day weekend, and I hope you find it to be restful and restorative, and hope you're looking forward to the fall season. I do invite you, if anything I say about today's message touches you, maybe go back to today's service on the Emmanuel Baptist Church of Newington, Connecticut YouTube channel. And the title of the message was Loved Enough to be Disoriented. So we talked, the key word today was disorientation. And the reason is we are finishing our study in the Gospel of John. This was the first of the two last messages in John 21. And we just began the first part of the chapter, up to the middle of the chapter of this epilogue, basically, of the Gospel of John. John finished chapter 20 by saying these things the things Jesus did, and these things have been written that you would believe, and that believing on him you would have life in his name. And then it's almost like this is a postscript, this chapter, and it's one of the most beautiful and wonderful chapters in all the Bible. But I began talking this morning about being disoriented in life and how we can be disoriented materially, financially, situationally, relationally, or even just emotionally and psychologically. Maybe this video finds you in a moment of disorientation. The reason I think this is a good word for this chapter is that Peter, along with the other disciples, but primarily Peter is the focus, Peter's terribly disoriented in this moment. He's having a crisis of identity. He has lost all sense of self, all sense of success or achievement. You could say he's failed, he's flawed, he's embarrassed. He's unsure of what the resurrection means or what Jesus' interest with him is. He's second-guessing all of it. And what we see in this chapter is Jesus comes to him very precisely, very specifically, and gently, and comes to him in the disorientation and leads him to clarity and purpose and future direction. This takes place at my favorite spot in all of Israel, and we have a trip we're planning for our church in January of 2024. We have 50 spots, and we would love for you to go with us. There's the chance that we could have a second bus if there's the demand, so we could take maybe 100, but right now we just want to see the 50 full. If you have interest in being a part of that trip, I think the best thing to do would be to email me, pastor@ebcnewington.com, and I will get that email to the right people, and we will give you the information. It's about a 10-day trip with 2 days of travel, and the cost is somewhere south of $4,500 per person, including airfare, and it's kind of an all-inclusive trip. Didn't mean to sidetrack on that, but if you have an interest in that, we would love for you to go. pastor@ebcnewington.com. So anyway, this occasion of John 21 happens on the north shore of Galilee, just outside of the city of Capernaum, where these natural springs come into the Sea of Galilee. It's where they washed their nets. This is where Jesus came to the disciples the first time he met them and gave them a miraculous catch of fish. And he's going to recreate that experience. And it's almost like he's taking them in their disappointment, and he's taking them all the way back to the beginning of their relationship and saying, remember when I called you, remember when I met you, remember who I am and who you were, and the delight and the awe and the wonder that drew us together. And let's pick it back up now that you know there's more to the story, and let's go forward. It's so cool. And the point here, the big takeaway is that your disorientation is seasonal and situational and not permanent, and it's not your new normal, that Jesus will lead you through it and he will guide you, and he's writing a bigger and a better story on the other side of the disorientation if you don't make a bad decision during the disorientation. So I shared 6 statements. I said, first of all, Jesus knows when to show up. And this is verses 1 and 2. And the idea being that this is a full 14 days after the resurrection. There was 8 days until he showed himself to Thomas. And now they're in Galilee, which is 5 days of travel on foot north, 90 miles. So they are at least 14 days after the resurrection. Point being, Jesus has let Peter take this walk through ambiguity, disorientation, loss. He's let him feel the loss. And I think there's a providential aspect to that, and it's deliberate. It's not meant to be simply oppressive or abusive. No, he's teaching Peter, and he's working with Peter, and he's letting the Spirit of God and the unfolding plan of God materialize in Peter's life. It's all very precise. And I just want to say it's precise with you too. When you trust the Lord, I'm not saying he's the cause of your disorientation as much as maybe your false idea of the script you were writing might be the cause of it, but he is definitely going to meet you in it. He may let you walk through it a while, but he knows when to show up. So be looking for him. Second thing I said is he knows my struggle. Peter says in verse 3, I'm going fishing. The struggle is he's going back to his old self. He's going back to his old life. He feels like he's failed. He doesn't qualify, or maybe Christianity didn't work for him. You've heard all these things. We've all met someone that tried to walk with the Lord, but then, so here's what I said to the church family. I think this is important. Peter has disappointed Jesus, but actually at this point, Peter feels Jesus has disappointed him too. This is not the story that Peter imagined. It was his own imagination, but he sure feels a distance with Jesus relationally, and mostly because of his failure. The last time we saw Peter, he ran out and wept bitterly. Jesus has appeared to him once or twice with the disciples, but it's still an odd uncertainty, okay? I shared Philippians 1:6. We can be confident that he which hath begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Christ. Isaiah 55, God's word will accomplish that which he pleases. Galatians 6, let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. And Psalm 138, the Lord will perfect that which concerneth me. So Peter's under construction, and so are you, and so am I. And so we need almost like a t-shirt, or we need a tattoo on our forehead that says, I am under construction. Pardon the mess. I'm under construction. Jesus is working on me. And I think that will cause us to extend grace and receive grace in humility. The third statement I said was, Jesus knows where to find me. So they said, hey, we're going with you, which means you never go anywhere in life directionally alone. If you go away from God, someone else is going to follow you away from God. There's going to be a collateral damage. And if you follow Jesus, there's going to be collateral blessings. There will be others that follow him because of you. So never underestimate your influence. Never think, oh, it's not hurting anybody but me. That's never true. So they all went fishing with him. They went forth into the ship, and Jesus came. They went all night fishing, and nothing. They caught nothing, empty nets. Meanwhile, Jesus is on the shore. It's interesting what he's doing on that shore is he's got a fire, and he's cooking fish. So it's kind of funny to me. I just like to imagine that they're out on the boat getting frustrated and tired and hungry because they're going back to their old life has turned out to be as empty as it was before. It's fruitless. Meanwhile, they're smelling the cooking fish. Jesus is setting up this perfect scenario where he's on the shore and he's not only caught fish, he doesn't need to catch fish. He's already grilling fish. It's really a wonderful thing. So, excuse me, that was a notification. Anyway, so he knows where to find them. He knows where to find you in your disorientation. He knows where you are. He knows how to come to you. He says, have you caught anything? They said, no. And basically, he's helping them see life apart from him is fruitless. Life out of alignment with his will. Life off mission with his kingdom purposes. It's fruitless. You spin your wheels. You never catch up. And God orchestrates it in such a way where you're spinning your wheels until your priorities are right. Haggai 1 teaches us that. Teaches us to consider our ways. Because when we're off mission from God's directive, he, in essence, works against us. Lovingly, graciously, patiently works against us until we reset our priorities. Fourth thing I said was Jesus knows how to teach me. I love this point. Jesus says, cast the net on the right side of the ship and you shall find. So it's a miracle. The net fills. It's an awesome thing. We'll come to that. But in this moment, I just want to focus on he teaches them to do something. He tells them to do something. He gives them a directive. And so often in my seasons of ambiguity or seasons of disorientation, I'm looking for the solution to all my problems. And maybe what Jesus is going to do is tell me the next step to take. And usually it's going to be a step of faith, and it's not going to make a lot of sense. Like, what's the difference between this side and this side of the boat? But it's something simple. It's something they can do in obedience to him. It's something that's going to trigger their memory to what he did for them before. So they listen. I gave the church family these passages, Psalm 27:11, teach me thy way, O Lord. Psalm 25:4, show me thy ways, teach me thy paths, lead me in thy truth, teach me. Psalm 32:8, I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. I will guide thee with mine eye. That's kind of like my life verse, that God said, I'm going to instruct you, I'm going to teach you. If you're teachable and you're leadable and you're listening in your disorientation, Jesus is going to come to you. He knows where to find you. He knows where you are. He knows where it's going, and he knows what to tell you to do next. If you're listening and if you desire to be obedient, he will get you there. Number 5, Jesus knows how to fill my nets. So a lot of times our disorientation is, how am I going to meet my needs? How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to... And all I can say, my friend, is do exactly what he says and trust him fully and entirely, because he knows how to fill the net. And by the way, he's already got fish cooking on the seashore, so he doesn't even need to fill the net in some respect. 153 fish, I think that's really interesting. I think they had 153 fish worth of bills to pay. I think it was very precise. I think there's a backstory there that we don't know about, but something is going on in why John shared that number. So then when the net fills with fish, John realizes this is Jesus, and he says to Peter, it's the Lord. And Peter immediately jumps in to the water, swims to the seashore, pulls himself up out of the water, and begins to approach Jesus as the ship is coming in. And Jesus says, bring of the fish which you have now caught. One thing that jumped out to me on this is he gives them the credit for catching the fish. Bring of the fish which ye have now caught. I just think that's fascinating, because really he caught the fish, or he made the catch happen. But somehow he's like, good job, guys. Bring all those fish that you guys just caught. It kind of reminds me of the marriage supper and the judgment seat of Christ, where we will be rewarded for good work that he did through us. It's remarkable. And then Simon draws the net up, 153 fish. The net wasn't broken. And the sixth statement I gave was that Jesus knows how to invite me back. Jesus doesn't berate Simon, doesn't correct him. Peter is wondering, where's this going? He's dripping wet, and he's standing there looking at Jesus. Their eyes meet again. Remember, not long ago, their eyes met, and Peter went out and wept bitterly. Now their eyes meet again, and I feel, this is my imagination, I feel the warmth of Jesus' heart. He's making them breakfast. He came there to love them. He came there to recover them, to redeem them, essentially. He didn't come there to correct and rebuke Peter. He's already done that. He came there to recover Peter and to teach him what this is really all about. We're going to talk about that next week, but he says, come and dine. And nobody asked Jesus who he was, because they knew it was him. Somehow he looked different to them. I'm not sure how or why. But then it says, verse 13, Jesus comes and takes bread and gives them, and fish likewise. Just imagine Jesus in this moment. They don't know what to say. It's awkward. They sit down. They're hungry, and he just begins to feed them, like he's going to do for you and me at the marriage supper of the Lamb. He's going to gird himself. He's going to feed us. And I just reminded of his invitation, come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And Revelation 22, the Spirit and the bride say, come, and let him that hears say, come, and let him that is athirst come. Whosoever will, let him take of the water of life freely. So what does Jesus do to say to us in our disorientation? He says, come to me, and let me walk you through this. If you could jump in a time capsule or a time machine and get back into Peter's face at that morning of going fishing, you would say, Peter, you seem to be very discouraged. You're confused. You're disoriented. But I know the rest of your story, and if you'll just hold on a few weeks, you'll be preaching, and 3,000 people are going to be saved. And the Church of Jesus is going to explode onto the scene in a miraculous, supernatural way, and you're going to be right on the ground level of it. So Peter, don't give up right now. Don't go back to your old self. Don't lose hope. Jesus is really just getting started. And I want to give you that same admonition. You may be disoriented right now. You may be frustrated or fearful. You may be wondering what's going on. Where is Jesus? Why isn't he showing up yet? I want you to meditate on these things. In your disorientation, Jesus knows exactly where you are. He's going to lead you and teach you forward. And one day he's going to lift the fog and give you clarity. And right now he's writing the story that one day you'll be celebrating. So don't do anything foolish. Come to him and let him walk you through that disorienting season. It might be a while, might be a little while of a walk in the dark. For Peter, it was 14 days. And we'll catch the rest of this chapter next week. So I'm so thankful for our church family, for the joy. I actually met today some of our YouTube family that came and visited church, which was really cool. And there was just a wonderful spirit of worship and learning these things about the heart of Jesus. The more you look at Jesus, the longer you stare at him, the more awesome he is, the more wonderful, and the more you just want to run to him and walk through all of life with him. So I hope you'll walk through today and this week with him, and have a great Sunday, and I will see you tomorrow.